So what is it that we need to do to go back to that divine potential, to that perfection? How do we realize our divinity?
Right.
It's all very well to talk about it and to believe it, but how do we actually bring that divine potential into manifestation and ultimately go back to the absolute? Well, the answer is surprisingly simple in terms of it's easy to talk about, but doing it is a whole different matter. And the answer for us on Earth is that we need to raise Kundalini, raise it with full control in its entirety. Kundalini is a mystical force at the base of the spine, and it is responsible for every aspect of our consciousness. We could not live without Kundalini. However, in the vast majority of us, it's virtually dormant. And life is about gaining control over this power, about taking it from its dormancy into realizing its full potential. And this takes the form of consciously raising it up the spine through each chakra. And as we do this, we will gain psychic powers and wisdom. It's, of course...
mastery over matter, essentially.
Absolutely mastery over matter. That is what we're here to do on Earth, is to gain control over matter. And by raising the Kundalini, we will achieve this. So a great master who could raise the Kundalini to a high chakra at will would be able to levitate, for example, would be able to give fantastic healing, would be able to walk on water even. They may choose not to do this because it's not good use of their powers. They don't have infinite power. They have great power, but not infinite power. And they may choose to use their powers in spreading wisdom, for example, rather than performing signs and wonders, which may appeal to the wrong crowd anyway.
Because everything is a sacrifice of energy. So when you make a decision to do something, you're giving up having used it for something else.
Absolutely, yes. There is an idea that masters are all-powerful. And as far as we're concerned, with our puny level of spiritual power, they are. But they're not literally all-powerful. Nothing is all-powerful except the Absolute itself. So all masters have to make a decision about how to use their energy. And because of their great wisdom, they will know how to use the energy for the greatest good. And the greater the master, the greater the wisdom will be. And it's wisdom more than power that really counts, because you could have, I mean, it is, I don't want to talk about this too much, but it is possible to pervert the potential of Kundalini and use it for evil as well, up to a certain point. Anyway, you can't do it indefinitely because the law of karma will stop you. But you can do it up to a certain point. And there are, regrettably, people on Earth who do have great powers, but do not use them for a spiritual purpose. So I'd just like to, since we're talking about Kundalini, I'd just like to say a couple of things so that you don't get the wrong idea. First of all, I haven't even come anywhere close to raising the Kundalini myself. So this is, sadly, I'm kind of talking from the point of view of theory rather than actual experience. But one day, each and every one of us will have this experience, because this is the reason we're on Earth. Dr. George King has been very adamant about that. This is the reason we're here. This is what we have to learn to do. When we can do it, we no longer need to reincarnate here. the second point I'd like to make about Kundalini, just for the record, is that it is, because it is such a fantastically great power, there's a lot of danger attached to it. We shouldn't fear it, because we shouldn't fear anything, but we should be mindful of treating it with due caution and reverence, I would say. There are certain spiritual practices which are far too dangerous for the vast majority of people to attempt. And sort of at the other end of the scale, there are spiritual practices which I don't think are very dangerous, but also aren't very effective either, which have been given the name Kundalini Yoga, which are not really Kundalini Yoga. There's a lot in the New Age movement at the moment about Kundalini dancing. This is not Kundalini Yoga in the sense of raising this power in its entirety. This is a very, very serious thing. This is not about going through a difficult time in your life and trying to relieve stress. You know, I'm not knocking that. We all go through difficult times and we all need to relieve stress. But Kundalini Yoga is about attaining the greatest possible enlightenment, not just a state of well-being. This is a state that people like you and me can't really even imagine.
And I think it's worth emphasizing as well, because people take it quite glibly, that raising the Kundalini and achieving cosmic consciousness, Ascension, this is lives of effort. Lives and lives of effort.
Absolutely, it's lives of effort. You can't, there's no such thing as instant enlightenment. Anyone who has enlightenment instantly has worked for it for a long time. You cannot just go from being an ordinary person to suddenly being enlightened. It takes, as you say, literally lives of effort. Now, the good news is, though, you don't know how many lives you might have spent
already.
Yes, working towards the goal. So you shouldn't feel hopeless. And the very fact that you're watching this video probably indicates that you have at least an interest in spirituality, which probably means that, maybe in a previous life you've started on the journey. Sometimes people suddenly change, and of course that's a wonderful thing when it happens. And sometimes you have to look at psychology in terms of how quickly someone might make it to enlightenment. So if you have someone who's maybe on a dark path, but is an extremely determined, dynamic person, if that person has a sudden change of heart, then that person could end up finding enlightenment before Mr. and Mrs. Average, who just plods through life gently. And a good example of that, of course, is St. Paul, who actively persecuted Christians and then became one of the greatest exponents of Christianity the world has ever seen.